So today, for our first ever podcast, I have with me Paul Donnelly. Welcome, Paul, the CEO
Good to
of
be here.
Technovate.
Thank you, Neil.
And Lawrence Lau, the Head of Solutions for Terra.
Hiya, everyone.
So I'd like maybe Paul to introduce who you are, a bit about your business, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of a company called Technovate Distribution. We're a cybersecurity company, predominantly focusing on backup, disaster recovery, and a full cybersecurity stack with vendors, mainly ACRONIS, who we've been incredibly successful with for the last 7 years. And, we're really excited about the partnership that we formed, the T-Squared partnership with Terra Computers, because you've built a fantastic channel over the years. Obviously, those channel partners have a lot of trust for Terra Computers. There's a working relationship long term. So for us, it's about working with those right sort of strategic partners like Terra, who have those relationships where we can promote our backup and disaster recovery services, such as ACRONIS. But really, for me, what I want to get across in the podcast is that we're we're innovative, we're disruptive. We're not like your normal distributor. We're not selling something on price, because anybody can do that. And backup is just backup. In my opinion, it is really becoming a bit of a race to the bottom if that's all you're offering. So ACRONIS is more than that, because it will give you that disaster recovery. So if you have a flood, a fire, you can restore your data into the cloud instantly from a serviced office, from home. Or maybe you're quite happy with your current supplier that provides backup, but you might want to consume the patch management, the vulnerability assessment, or the email security, the other features, modules that you can turn on of ACRONIS. So it's a very, very powerful solution. But I think the real sort of icing on the cake and what makes us very successful is the way that we manage the service. We created a managed service rack. So we'll troubleshoot your backups, we'll restore them, we'll do all the help with the invocation to DR testing. So we're very different because we like to be very hands-on, when working with a company like Terra into their channel. And we're there. We're there when you need us. When something goes wrong, we're quick to respond on an email or phone call. But, you're not going to be waiting days on end for a response.
So, of course, we have Lawrence here,
Okay.
our Head of Solutions. And what excites you the most about working with Paul and with the ACRONIS product?
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Lawrence. I'm Head of Solutions from Terra. As Paul said, that there's a very good product ACRONIS, which is, I think from the initial, I think still quite new on that product. But one I got nowadays, almost day to day, to speak to our MSP, and that's what echo to Paul say, that is really powerful tools for our MSP. This is like a life changer, that help our MSP, no matter on the Microsoft 365 backup, the normal backup, traditional one. And also the big thing is, as Paul mentioned, it is disaster recovery. I'm surprised nowadays a lot of MSPs or end customer, they may be still thinking about disaster recovery. I don't consider it. Yeah, even though some of them, I'm surprised still a lot of maybe end customers still not doing proper backup on their PC or Microsoft 365.
Yeah.
That made me worry about more and more, as you know, that most of the cyber attack nowadays is not just target to the large enterprise or public servicing company. It's more on about how easy they can get some of the small business. I think in UK, most of the company is like a small, medium size, which is, that is like, can you imagine if there's something going wrong, they can't do the recovery, and they don't have backup, how to restore, how much money they will lose. And I think people still like gambling. It like bit like insurance. Why I need to take that insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is This is not. I really don't understand. I'm not saying they are. They may be a good gambler, okay, but for reality, for a hacker or cyber attack, it is not gambling. They just massive launch the attack. Someone is not protect. Done.
I mean, you can't play poker with your data and with your company, right?
Yeah.
Because you could be a manufacturing company,
Yeah.
have 24 hours
Yeah.
solution,
Yeah.
247, 365, and that's a massive financial impact if you're suddenly downtime,
Yeah.
right?
It's the most important thing is your
Yeah.
data. And I think everybody just thinks, well, I've got my data backed up, I'm fine. Well, hang on, but if a disaster strikes, what are you going to put that data back onto? That's going to require Terra or whoever it is to, order a new server, build it, ship it. That takes time. Then you've got to get the data back onto the new box. With ACRONIS, where it's really, really clever is they've effectively invested a huge amount of money building that cloud infrastructure that is there on hot standby. And you can just load your resources onto it as and when you need to for a test or disaster. That's the game changer. Because in the marketplace, I personally have not seen anybody else providing a true disaster recovery in the cloud. There's plenty of on-premise, but you try to find the ones that are offering it in the cloud.
So you think that's currently a USP?
I think it's totally underestimated. You wouldn't believe the amount of customers that we had that were using ACRONIS, for example, with other disties. They didn't even know that ACRONIS offered disaster recovery.
So it's awareness and training to your end users.
Yeah, for me, that is the key thing that you should have. It's not just the data backed up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you look at Terra, what we're trying to do is obviously, I think if you become a transactional, if you just become a commodity as a provider, not just a product, but as a provider, I think there's risks. There's too much risks in that. You have to stand out from the crowd. We have to differentiate. We have to add value. And I think nowadays, with the way we're doing with the wraparound service with the ACRONIS, with our partnership, and obviously onboarding customers, doing the 30-day trainings and onboardings, we're bringing on this pipeline of customers who are bringing on board ACRONIS because they do see the value. So what I'm hearing, obviously, from Lawrence and yourself is actually we shouldn't be leading with the word backup. We should be leading with the word disaster recovery.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. And I think the amount of conversations that I'm getting into at the moment where, you'll talk to an MSP and they'll say, well, we've got, I don't know, Rubrik, Datto, ArcServe, whoever it is as a competitor. And to be fair, some of those competitors are very good at what they do. But where ACRONIS is winning, they have created all these different, what they call advanced packs. So you can have patch management, vulnerability assessment, as I said, email security. So we're not necessarily saying change your backup, right? And that's why they get a little bit confused because they're like, well, why are we having a conversation then? Because that's what you provide. Well, yes and no. Yes, backup is there. But because ACRONIS have been very clever to build all the integrations to work with those competitors, you can keep your backup with them and take the modules that they can't provide. And then what we tend to find, it's a very clever way of getting them to use ACRONIS, get familiar with it, because 9 times out of 10, I'll tell you what'll happen. The engineer will go, well, actually, let's have a look at the backup.
Selling all these things.
It's a different way in, because if you're just going to lead a conversation with backup, everyone does that.
Yeah.
And it's boring. It's a price conversation.
I mean, Lawrence, obviously, you've been talking to lots of MSPs since we've launched these solutions.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest, let's say, feedback is in that sense from an experienced MSP, first time looking at ACRONIS? What's the takeaway that you've got from that?
I think have two. We will be classified two different type of customer, which is we call MSP, which is they already have we call software stack. That one building maybe already have different brand of account backup or endpoint protection, something like that. And other side, I still saw a lot of another classification is like just normal system integrator or reseller, which is, from my point of view, currently and not existing MSP. Is most of the interest is on the reseller or system integrator. For them, it's like a brand new world. They still I think they're transactional, so like one-off selling, something like that. When I speak to them, it's like, oh, we can help you to build up your monthly recurrent revenue. And they said, oh, I didn't think that.
Yeah.
And which is we launched a CSP campaign, whatever, and the ACRONIS backup promotion, and they think they sound really interesting. Because the thing is, Office, definitely, they already sold a lot of maybe hardware kit, but they didn't realize that even some of them, they still not selling like a Microsoft 365.
I think you're right. I think as well around that, one of the things that we're finding is that, again, with a lot of these competitors, you have to have something on premise. You need hardware.
Yeah.
So now you've got capital expenditure. And also my argument with that is, and I'm not going to say who they are because it wouldn't be right to do that, but one or two of these competitors that have an on-site appliance, well, what happens when that appliance fails? Now I've got a single point of failure. How am I now going to back up?
Yeah.
The appliance is gone. And I think now more and more is obviously in the cloud.
Yeah.
It doesn't require the capital expenditure. What we're offering is a very flexible OpEx model.
Yeah.
There's a trade-off though, isn't there? Because obviously a lot of people who've went in the cloud Azure solutions and things like this, they get to a certain scale and then they suddenly realize actually that scale and their usage and actually having the redundancies and various things, suddenly that cost of the cloud is a lot more higher than having on-prem.
Yeah.
So it's key, just on-prem is not necessarily a problem, and there's a trend actually people going back to on-prem, in our opinion. We see it in the sales. But you obviously need to still have the right backups and have solutions where you could spin up. We can offer spin-up solutions into a cloud-based recovery. And that gets them back online. They can get their on-prem fixed and then carry on.
Well, that leads us into, again, with ACRONIS, what they thought about and they implemented into the software. It's because not everything is going to be right for the cloud.
Yeah.
You're going to be talking to, I don't know, somebody that's in the public sector, a government department,
school,
right?
Yeah.
They've got to keep their data local, on premise. They want to control it, secure, lockdown. So ACRONIS introduced cyber infrastructure. So that means you can now back up locally to your own hardware, your own SAN, which might be, I don't know, the data center or wherever it is you're storing it. So now, again, you're still charged in the same way on a cost per gig per month, but now you're storing the data locally. And if you want, you can have an offsite copy as well to another location.
It's like a tier 3 type of option.
Yeah, kind of like that. So that's the good thing about that product, is the way you can turn the knobs and dials to get it to do what you want it to do for your requirements.
Depending upon how deep and specific you want to get into that backup, fail safe, things like that.
But the great thing as well is because they've built everything into, what I call a single pane of glass, it just makes it easier in terms of managing it, supporting it.
Now, in the sense of backup vendors, obviously we obviously trust ACRONIS. We believe ACRONIS. Hence, we wouldn't be firstly doing this podcast, but at the same time, we wouldn't be doing this as in our joint venture. So obviously, we're believing this. We're going out to MSPs, and there's definitely some great competitors out there in the market.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But would you say that, based upon the feedback we have, and would you agree that you'd say ACRONIS is like a one-stop shop? Because not all the vendors can do all these different functions?
I would say yes, but I think it's fair to say that, look, not every MSP will feel comfortable, having everything in one product. And I get that, they might feel slightly exposed and, but then a lot of others do like that. They like the ease of it. They like the fact that it's a lot more cost effective.
You've got customers using different portals.
Yeah.
You've got your RMMs, you've got your backups, you've got all these different things. And then if you've got 3 or 4 backup providers doing your on-prem or doing your M365 and all these things, your engineers have to be multitask beyond belief.
Yeah. And don't forget, a lot of people, ACRONIS have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I've known about them for many, many years, and, they approached me at a previous role at a different company. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that special. It was just another backup offering. But over the last few years, they've really evolved. And some of the stuff within their products is not even their own.
Yeah.
They've acquired best of breed, and they don't hide that. And a great example is email security. It's Perception Point. Which is a really, really good product. So Perception Point have teamed up with ACRONIS. Their antivirus, used to be Mimecast. They've just done a really good job. And the fact that they constantly evolve is making it very difficult for their competition because you're almost shutting them out at every angle if you're offering all these different features.
Building the right product suite.
Yeah. And that's what we like. But I mean, they've got data centers all over the world. So again, geographically, you haven't just got to back up here. You can, we have a business, as you know, Neil, in South Africa. We've done really, really well there for a sub-listed.
Yeah.
They have 600 resellers, selling into that base. But the reason they like working with us, and the same reason we formed the partnership, is what you don't seem to get with the other disties from what we're seeing. It's that sales support as well. Specialists that you can call on, that can come and do demos, help you set up the trials, help you with the tender responses. So effectively what we're doing is the legwork, right? Because the way I look at it, there's a cost to that in terms of our time, but it's a win-win. Because if we help those partners to get those end users or whatever it is, whoever they're working with over the line, we're going to benefit from that anyway on our platform. So that's what I'm not seeing in the market. The other disties seem to be very good at selling you the dream. And I've said this before at St. George's Park last year. They will sell you the dream. They will sign you up, get you commit. They're gone. Because many of these disties, salespeople are targeted on net new.
Like a pension sales. They got your money, they got you signed up, the direct
debit's going. Which is a problem, because now what you're seeing, as we've experienced, and in our favour actually, there's a lot of channel change.
Yeah.
Now you've got people that buy ACRONIS from other disties that are now moving, not because we can offer it a few pence cheaper, because nobody wants to move back up for the sake of it. What they want is the value add, as you said. It's wow, we've got a managed service rack. We've got a team that are going to act as a white labelled team for us in terms of selling this.
Yeah.
Right?
As we sort of said, it maybe comes back, stepping back a bit just from the brand itself or that particular subject. We're talking about what makes us sticky. And that's what our goal was. When I came up with the SaaS agreement with yourselves and some of the other vendors that we're working with, it was all about how can we make Terra more attractive, sticky. And Lawrence mentioned a very good point. I think it's respecting and understanding the MSPs, or what we like to be called MSSPs now. Yeah. And we've got to become part of their stack.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we're trying that with hardware and leasing and hardware as a service. So our tin, we still want to be engaging with our clients, but we need to become part of their software stack. And every event you go to these days, doesn't matter if it's network groups or CompTIAs, the new name, they've just changed, but all these events we go to, it's all security, and obviously now the big buzzword AI, but security is right up there, and also staff is right up there. So if you have too many portals, too many solutions, too many training needs, and you don't have the right staff, and you don't have enough staff, you're creating problems.
Yeah.
So we have to add value to the chain and not become transactional. As I said, transaction is part of it. You have to bill, and obviously the billing systems is very critical to all the different PSAs.
That's another really good point on the you've raised there with billing. Again, we've seen so many partners that have got horror stories when it comes to bills, where their invoice will arrive from their vendor, they're like, well, we don't even understand what we're being billed for, because it's just showing our total consumption.
And the quantity,
Yeah, so what we've done in many, many cases, I wouldn't say that we do it as standard, but in many, many cases, we took it into our own hands to simplify it, to give them that breakdown of their reseller usage, of their end user usage, because that saves a huge amount of time. And I'll be honest, if you download an ACRONIS report, unless you know what you're looking at, it's quite complex. Yeah. So you've got to understand those reports, which we do because we do it day in, day out. So that saves a huge amount of time. I had the other day, it was brilliant. Somebody trying to sell ACRONIS, a salesperson for another distie. And he told this MSP, oh, yeah, you'll get 2-to-1 compression, on all these files. How does he know that you're going to get 2-to-1 compression? How do you know that Exchange database is going to compress by 50%? Now, even if it does, what he's not made you aware of is that when Neil sets the retention policy for that customer, so if you want to store dailies, weeklies, monthlies, yearlies of your data, let's say they had 1,000 gigs and it did compress to 500 gig. When you set that retention policy, next month it'll be back up to 1,000 gig. So you've got to understand what you're selling, because there's a lot of these salespeople that'll make you believe you're going to get something really, really cheap. But if you don't understand it, that all of a sudden, because the data's compressing, but it fluctuates.
Yeah.
Right. So this is important. Obviously, me and Lawrence have spent a lot of time, with your MSPs, Neil, educating them, doing lots of 30-day free trials to run it in a trial mode to get a feel of, well, what does that 1,000 gigs really compress by? What does it really look like with the retention? So that come the end of 30 days, we can say, well, we now know this is what it's going to be. Because they have to be able to budget for it. They've got to go to their board and get sign off for a budget. So they have to have an idea of what this thing's going to cost.
Yeah, I quite like ACRONIS that 30-day trial is like a full product trial.
Of everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Some of the vendor, they say, oh, we can give you 30-day trial, but we'll be limit this one, because they scary. They drag up the order suddenly. If they subscribe a lots of trial, they will be drain up their resources.
Yeah.
But I don't feel ACRONIS will be worried about this one. So most of our customer, they may be partner every day on board. They maybe get a few customer on board for 30 days. And I say, just brave to try. Before 30 days, you can try everything.
Yeah.
Once we will be also, the system will be remind you, and myself personally will be remind you of you got maybe 10 days left, how's going on, whatever. So I think it's like two-way. It's not so, because I found some of the product when they say 30-day trial, they just let you do it. Correct. The thing is, most difficult thing is like how you think about that MSP or partner will really doing the trial. They maybe just open it or maybe set up first time and then leave it. I think most of the MSP or partner they doing trial is like it. But the thing is, we with technology it's different. I think the thing is we will be really like set the day, 10 day after 10 day, what this look like. We can tell them
the check-ins.
And then what happened is that because they got free vulnerability assessment, we can see, oh, your end customer got something which is you should be aware. So we will be like proactive to tell them what's going on during their demo or trial.
Well, that also, I think, just to highlight one of those point for the MSPs who are listening. Obviously, from an MSP perspective, we're offering a 500 gig NFR account.
Yeah.
So that's basically free of charge. Nothing 30-day trial. That's a permanent 500 gig account on a gigabyte workload basis to do it on your server. But at the end of the day, that's something you can permanently trial and just get accustomed to and help your engineers get familiar with the platform.
I mean, that is a good point as well, because obviously, obviously after the 30 days, the account will turn to production. But as you say, because it's a free 500 gig account, they can then use that as their demo account if they wanted. But I think, like we were talking earlier, and if you look at, what are the objections that you get, when people are trying to maybe buy into a different solution, but they're worried about, I don't know, what happens to my previous sort of history, retention. That's a typical thing that will come up. I mean, again, between, Terra and Technovate, we can help with that. We might agree to give some sort of free period, beyond the trial period, to allow that reseller's customers to build up the retention. Typically that'll probably be 60 days, 90 days, whatever, in order for them to look at moving from one supplier to another, because that tends to be a bit of a worry.
I mean, what is the risk? I mean, obviously, what is the classical average retention that people actually find?
It really varies from what sort of organisation you are, what sort of compliance you have to meet. But from my experience, 90 days is normally more than sufficient for most. So what they would do, they would onboard ACRONIS. Let's say they've got a 90-day free period. At the end of 90 days, they would have built up the retention while they're still paying their other supplier. Then they switch off for the other supplier. Now they've got 90 days on ACRONIS. So they really like that because, again, who else is doing that?
And if you think about, like, if someone has a 1 year retention of data, is there any tips how they can take away their pain?
Yeah, I mean, there are various different, what should I call it, workarounds, if you like, in terms of getting the data out from other platforms. Because again, you have to remember, it would be wrong to sit here and say you can just lift and shift, because, Veeam or Datto, whatever it is, talks a different language to ACRONIS. So, of course, they're different platforms. You can't just transition from one to another, but there are different workarounds and even down to, people forget, if you've got, 100 terabytes, right, 100,000 gigs, that's a lot of data. Unless you've got big pipes out to the internet, how are you going to get your 100 terabytes off your network and into the ACRONIS network, right? Many salespeople say, you just trickle it. Just send it over the wire. Really? Really, you're going to trickle it? That's going to take months. But again, with ACRONIS, you can do a snapshot. So you could send a NAS, a QNAP, a server to the customer site. You can then download all the data onto it at land speed. Terra would then have that drive shipped to the ACRONIS data center. They then plug it into their network and they upload at land speed.
Is that a free of charge service?
It is a free of charge service.
It's very good to know.
Right. Again, if you need to get it back, you reverse the process. It's a free of charge service with T squared.
It's one of our value.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You will pay for that service through any other ACRONIS distributor.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, as I'm aware of today.
Okay, that's again our concept.
Yeah,
how we look to build a value add.
Yeah, it's
differentiate.
Yeah, that
stand out from the crowd. All these things.
That, and it's those sort of things that they don't understand. That's where they need our help. In how do we do this? They heavily rely on us, and this is, like I said, where, maybe in the defence of some of these other disties, the problem is they've just got too many vendors, so they can't focus enough like we do, with working with just a handful. And because otherwise you just become a magpie. You're just selling a bit of this, a bit of that. We just focus on 3 or 4. We're really good at it.
Yeah,
and
I would say definitely in the last, say, 5 to 10 years, you see classical distribution, which has typically obviously been box moving.
Yeah.
And obviously due to the evolution of the industry and everything becoming cloud and software and cybersecurity focused, there's a software-driven empire coming up there. And there's obviously new clusters of new software-focused distribution houses. And if you look at most of them, their stack is very, very broad. And how do you also train your sales and your staff to give enough value add and support to your clients?
Yeah. This is, I think, is 2 extreme case we facing. Is some of them very proud of their cloud marketplace. They got hundreds of software product on their shopping mall, I would say. However, I was thinking about to tempt that MSP, you just come to us, you got all the shopping list, all the product in here, that's it. But I was saw that, how can you give the support to them if they have 100 or 30, 40? How you can give them support, pre-sale, everything? Is that just like we discussed, transactional? But for us, Terra and technical,
I think it is. I think for a lot, it is transactional. As I said, a lot of them are just focused on the backup side of things. They're not focusing on. If all we did, I tell you now, is just backup, we'd have a problem. Further down, backup will always be required. But look at the way now people are selling backup.
Yeah.
They're almost leading with other things and bundling the backup in as part of it, because they're going, well, actually, if we put that with that, even though if that might even be sold as a bit of a loss leader, we know that we're making margin on the product over here. So they're all repositioning and selling things in a different way.
We're doing some promotions right now.
To be fair, you are,
Yeah, we're doing some promotions. We have the Microsoft
which is great.
CSP. We're very big Microsoft. Yes, we're proud of that.
Yeah.
We're pushing the CSP during February and March, and we're doing a bit of a bundle with ACRONIS backup on the M365 and the standard workload products, and giving some incentives to the MSPs to help them, because we appreciate the fact that some of this is migration related things. We are supporting, and this is, a lot of people don't know this, we're trying to make them aware. Terra, we will support and put the manpower to do the migration.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we should say that, we have obviously had a good amount of partners, for whatever reason, decided to move away from their disties. And again, if they already have ACRONIS, we can obviously, request to move their tenant from their current distributor into the Terra tenant. so they're not going to lose anything in terms of what they currently got. They haven't got to start all over again.
I think it's just a gain, because I think our premium value add what we are offering on, especially on ACRONIS and through our T-Squared partnership, I think it's second to none.
100%. I mean, ACRONIS, as I said, when I saw this 7 years ago and I saw that DR capability, that was before all the advanced packs came. Yeah. That was a game changer, because up until then, we'd always been cobbling together something that provided disaster recovery around another backup solution. So you might have, I don't know, Veeam, right? And then
Zerto.
Exactly. Yeah. The problem is that now you've got different vendors, different dashboards. It's messy, and it becomes expensive, especially if you look at the market space that we're focusing on. Everybody loves talking about disaster recovery. They don't want to pay for it.
There's a lot.
This is affordable.
A question from my side and you, Paul, from a neutral perspective from your side, or you could consider possibly neutral or not neutral even, like on the industry. There's a lot of acquisition mergers happening.
Yeah,
we've seen just a few examples. Continuum comes together with ConnectWise, or Data goes to Kaseya. All these things happening, and this will continue because there's obviously VCs out there. There's people the shareholder wanting earn out and things like this, and this affects obviously the customer, the MSPs.
Yeah,
how do you think about that these days?
Well, I think you're spot on. I think again, that's why we're having a lot of success, because unfortunately, with that going on, they're losing what they had previous in terms of the support that they were getting. Yeah. Support is key. In my opinion, it doesn't matter how good your product is. If you haven't got a good support arm wrapped around that, you've got nothing. You can play on the ACRONIS brand and all the rest of it, but that's when something goes wrong and Neil needs to restore some files, or I don't know, Neil's travelling.
He's lost. Neil's not going to be restoring anything.
If anyone's going to lose a file, it's probably
to the listeners. Trust me, I'll not be involved.
But it's I had one the other day, but funny enough, it was one of your partners, and I'll have to share it with you. I had a really nice email off this lady saying, because I'd been what I always am, just really responsive. She's like, "Wow, where have you been as a distributor?" And then we spoke later that afternoon, and she said, I cannot believe, with other disties that I've worked with, the experience has always been, it just takes days before anybody actually gets, she said, you're like that.
I was at an event this week in Birmingham, and some of the feedback was about like software and deployment.
Yeah.
And they were saying, it's taken from this distributor several days, and I was like, this is a minutes task. This is a deployment of minutes for us. And I couldn't believe some of the comments I was hearing.
Well, I think that what you don't want, there's no point us just recruiting MSPs onto the platform to lose them a year down the line.
No.
What is the point of that? For me, if I look at our churn, it's very, very small, because we are always engaging the partners. We're always, if you're not talking to them, somebody else is going to be in there.
I mean, I'm going to be honest as well. This is going off topic backup, but going back again to Terra tin. But you will come back into the conversation. You'll catch me in a second. But when it's Terra, we're 2 billion outfit as a Goldman group.
Yeah.
We're a very successful group across Europe, but we are tin.
Yeah.
Right? It's classically tin. Now, we're not a big A brand, the Dells and Lenovos and HPs, but we are a family-owned entity, privately held. We have no shareholder responsibilities to worry, like reporting to the stock market or and all this type of things, and worrying about all these types of feedbacks on the stock exchange or whatever like that. So we just report to ourselves, and we try to grow healthy. But the biggest thing I think when we've launched in the UK, close to 12 years ago now, is more or less people never heard of Terra. Because we are an MSP-driven company. Yeah. We service 16,000 MSPs across Europe, and we don't sell direct ever. So that model means we actually would rather spend the time marketing and spending time with the MSPs and not worry about the end users, because we trust the MSPs doing that properly themselves.
Yeah.
So it's more our job to make the MSP trust Terra. And the thing is there's a lot of MSPs firstly say, I've never done business with Terra. Then they might have had a referral from another MSP, because the MSP community does share and talk. There's a lot of that happening. And when the person's finally tasted a bit of Terra, they suddenly see the value out in the chain, whether it be our service approach, because obviously we do a very good on-site service approach. And this is why the bond, this is why I'm coming back to the topic, the bond between our Terra hardware, our Terra service, our MSP-orientated mindset, then bringing in new SaaS solutions into our stack, our own stack, makes us attractive, makes us sticky, we want to increase our loyalty towards the MSP and vice versa.
And they want to give you that business, because they're used to working with Terra, they trust you, they know you're going to be there for them. That's key.
Yeah.
Absolutely key. And I think same for us, look, Technovate, I mean, wow, what a journey it's been over the last 7 years. It really has. It's not been easy. There's lots of ups and downs as there is in any new business, but we've done incredible. I'm really proud, when I look at some of the companies we're working with, companies that are turning over £1 billion, that are buying because they recognize these guys know what they're doing. And they can really help us to grow.
But we're putting our face there, we're old school. Honestly, we are old school. We are doing site visits still.
Well, you care. That's the difference. You care.
Absolutely, we care. Every customer's getting calls from us. Every customer's getting a visit of us, whether that's at an industry event or going to their site. I think these days, site visits are becoming like And if you're a distributor or a provider who's like living in London area, going north of Watford, that's like
it's hard to get
do I
those
need a
people.
passport to do that?
Yeah.
Things like that. But we travel nationwide. We work with our MSPs locally, and we'll help them at events, their own Chamber of Commerce or any events they do, and we'll partner up with them. To be their extended arm.
I think that's exactly what we were saying earlier, is that you become an extension of their team.
Yeah,
you're a family, and that's what they like, is that they've got these experts, because let's be honest, there's lots of companies, they don't understand backup, they don't know how to sell it, and that's where you come in, because they know that you know what you're talking about.
We've got close to 40 years of experience as a business,
Yeah.
And the average age in our company, like typical MSPs as well, the average age is not young.
Yeah.
We're all nearly dinosaurs in this business, right? Guys, let's not deny ourselves on that. But we have a lot of experience, but we have to evolve, right? I mean, it was interesting this week, some of the comments about a white collar person will not get replaced by AI, but a white collar person will get replaced by somebody who's embraced AI.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't embrace it. So we have to keep educating ourselves. It's just like me. I had to take a leap of faith in our partnership because we jumped into the SaaS. And we jumped into the backup with you. And it's just like, this is new territories. Now, we know the IT industry, we know the MSP, but it's a brand new skill set.
And I think there's a great example. If we look at how we got talking, and it's exactly the same thing. You sort of recognize yourself, wow, this is great. Look at what these guys are offering. Look at the way they're engaging, helping. This is what we want to provide into our channel partners. Yeah. And that, I'm sure at some point it will change, but I'm not seeing that. And I haven't for the last 7 years from anybody else. Why, I don't know.
I personally try to consider myself a people person. I like to have nice relationships with our customers. I consider a lot of our customers friends, and we might get a WhatsApp at 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
it's not a private message, it's a business message asking for some advice, and I will reply.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, Neil, as well, is that I'm the same. My number's available, my email address. If somebody was to message me, I mean, even I could give an example. We had an MSP about 9 months ago. Sunday afternoon, I was out with my wife and children, and I got a phone call. And this guy, who I've known for many, many years, he was panicking because he said, Paul, I can see one of my customers, their data's being deleted in front of me, and I don't know what to do. So the first thing I wanted to do was just try and calm him a little bit. And I said, well, was your 2FA enabled? No. Okay, well, I'm not going to break him. He's already suffering as it is. And what they've managed to do, so our CTO managed to ping an IP address, and we could see it was an Israeli hacking group. We just Googled it, and it came straight up. They'd connected onto an alias email account within his email, and they'd managed to work out that ACRONIS was the backup, and they requested a password reset, and they were straight in. Right? That's how clever these people are. But we got straight on the phone to the CEO, went right to the top of ACRONIS, and we said, look, don't know if there's anything you can do, but we've got a bit of a situation with a reseller. Is there anything you might be able to do to help? Now, luckily, because we'd captured it as it was happening, a lot of these files were going into an archive at ACRONIS, right? And normally they'll go into the archive and they get deleted. So we didn't capture everything, but we captured a lot of it and the stuff that was important to that client. Now, had we not been able to do that, I can tell you now that MSP probably wouldn't be here. So he is so thankful for what we did, because how many disties do you know are going to pick up the phone on a Sunday afternoon and deal with an issue? Not going to happen.
Not many.
Not going to happen. And certainly not going to follow that process like we did. But it's those sort of things that are really, really important, because when things go wrong with backup, you need to know somebody's going to be there and they're going to respond.
You've been put to the test there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, for the wrong reasons, which was not a ACRONIS or Terra Technovate fault.
Yeah.
It was literally a case of a 2FA made the hack possible.
Yeah.
So that's a learning lesson for everybody. Make sure you do your 2FA. I think everyone's been caught out in some way. It might be a Facebook hack, a LinkedIn hack.
Yeah.
They're trying to hack your social media.
Yeah.
So even that, you have to make sure your 2FA is enabled.
Well, that 2FA is crucial, because the way that ACRONIS works as well, once 2FA is enabled, it enables the immutable storage, right? So all the storage then sits there for, I think it's 14 days, right? So you can restore from any of that storage because it's gone from one straight into the immutable.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's just being there for the partners, just showing them that love. I mean, I come from a world, where I worked for a big corporate IT company, which I'll be honest with you, I did very, very well, but I hated it because I have never seen so much sales prevention and challenges in all my life. Because the problem is the people at the top of the chain in a lot of these big companies, they're just fixed on spreadsheets, numbers, margins.
KPIs.
Yeah, they don't care about the service and the quality. They just care about the margin. And that was really what sort of prompted me to go and do my own thing, because I cared. I enjoy what I do. I didn't want to. And the danger is for people like you and I, Neil and Lawrence, that have built relationships with MSPs over the years. You can very quickly destroy that if all you're thinking about is your paycheck.
And the same, summarizing just as a salesperson, you could think about like the believability. You can sell believability as a salesperson to somebody, but if you don't, sorry for the pun, back it up with a solution of people around you, like Lawrence and the solutions team, like the Terra Technovate, like the ACRONIS, everyone as a team to support that MSP, to support that end client and their issues. So you can sell believability, you can sell lots of things, but you have to deliver.
100%. And I again, we were talking earlier, weren't we, before this, with ACRONIS. It's very public. They have commitment tiers. When you commit to a tier, that will determine what your monthly spend would be, and therefore what the unit rates will be within that tier. But again, the one thing that we don't do, as you know, is tie people up in knots.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not interested in doing that, because that can leave a really bad taste in somebody's mouth. If they don't sell enough to consume what they're being charged for, then they ain't going to be very happy. So I think it's always good, unless they know something we don't, and they've got a lot of storage that they can load on immediately, then I would always be encouraging them not to do it. Maybe go down a level, work your way up to it. We can do all sorts of things, like, as you know, ramp ups.
Yeah.
Right. So they commit to an amount, but maybe we give them a bit of time to ramp up into it. So I think, again, that's how.
And again, I think when we've looked at, like, say, the churn and anything that we've seen transferring from another distributor to the T-squared group, in that sense, I would say there's been an undersell.
Yeah.
Because again, we talked about it briefly at the beginning, but like there's the cross-selling, there's the way that the suites increased, and then again this transactional relationship, just having an M365 running but nothing else. And then it's looking at the data. I mean, we've looked at so many customers recently talking about CSP, as we mentioned before. We worked the promotion, and actually then you might. It's not a real example, but let's just say an MSP has 2,500 CSP, like standard and premium licenses running, but then they only have 1,000 backups running.
Yeah.
So we have to help them and guide them, and that's having that that knowledge and that product set that we sell, like being a Microsoft house, being in a ACRONIS house, we can give some advice and we can say, hey guys, you got 2,500 tenants, but you're missing 1,000, 1,500 seats to be backed up. Shouldn't you be talking to your clients to make sure they're safe?
Absolutely right. I think we did a similar exercise when we actually looked through, a lot of the MSP tenants to see, well, we know the majority buy disaster recovery, but how many actually set it up? How many actually test it and use it? Right.
This is the point we discussed. Even though we honor you a 30-day trial,
we've seen cases where, an MSP thinks a disaster strikes, it's fine. We'll just spin it up at the time the disaster strikes. Well, no, because, for example, you've got to create a VPN tunnel from your site into the cloud. You've got to test it. And I'll guarantee you, first time round, it probably won't work because there'll be configurations and firewall changes and all sorts.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like us in Vorman, we have a big cloud data center, and again, Microsoft Azure-driven data center, but we've got a very low carbon footprint because we actually have solar on all our factory roofs. So we actually have a lot of energy coming from the sun. But at the same time, of course, because it's a data center, you have your battery backup, you have your generators set up every week. It's a hard shutdown. And this is an example on a hardware perspective, but you've got to do it the same on a software perspective.
100%. And I think, again, when putting myself in the MSP shoes, there are things that we've created, that are helping them and allowing them to make more revenue and profit. Things such as, if you sold disaster recovery to that customer, why are you not selling them quarterly testing, 6 monthly, annual? Right? Sell it. You're leaving professional services, money on the table. The managed service wrap, which is the really clever one for me, which I created with our CTO, effectively, I don't know, if your bill was £5,000 a month on ACRONIS, we might say, well, we can provide it as a managed service for a percentage of whatever your spend is on ACRONIS every month. You've now got effectively an outsourced service desk, white labeled as you, doing all of your management. We don't have to be doing that though. You could do that. You could take our service wrap. You could charge for that. So again, it's just coming up with creative different ways, because otherwise the argument comes, and I always say this to anybody new that I'm talking to about ACRONIS, because they're going to say, well, why Technovate? What's special about you? What's different about you? And I'll even tell them who the competition is. I'll send you a list of who the competition is and contact names. But I'll tell you all the differences to why you buy from Technovate. That's what they like. It's what you said earlier. It's seeing that value add. Because if there's no value add, what's the point?
Well, I use the word believability, but also I believe we should just be honest to our customers.
Absolutely.
If we can't deliver what they need, 100%. If they say that's exactly what it needs to be, and that product doesn't fit, not just
Neil, if you just want to buy on price and you're not bothered about anything else, we're not the company for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I feel about it. Just, here we go and buy from one of the other disties.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel that's what's happening, and that's why you're seeing people move.
Yeah. Because we are really value add to our partner or customer, because we provide support to them. And we also talk about some solution, what we decide together, join together. This is what I think, as a vendor perspective, they want the distributor want to engage with their partner to sell more. And don't get me wrong, it's like we got loads of the product in the market, but always I was thinking about how you prioritize the product which is benefits to your company. Yet the way is as your backup solution, because I think it's more beneficial to you and more benefits to your whole company. We can do the POC, whatever. The thing is, sometimes I think most of the partner is say, oh, they maybe just sell the license, whatever. So this is not value add to the end customer. That means that you will down to the final price wall. So someone we can distribute. Why Terra is still stand up in the market, because we are not in a price war strategy, because no one don't like margin. I think don't like profit, right? Everyone needs to survive. So if you got the margin, so you can recruit the people, you could buy the equipment, you could rent the software, whatever. But the thing is, why always sometimes I'm not saying end customer is wrong, but they may be not also looking into all the product. As an expertise, you should tell what is the good. They may be using the things which is, or they may be one will be fit, another may be fit. But why in the market we know that there is a perfect match for you? Why not give it a try? Try first is not selling, because the process is not just I sell you something, just take it.
Do you know what?
I'm just looking at sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking across the table. You've got your jacket on, and I would say you could go to a high street shop and you can buy yourself a £99 suit.
Yeah.
Might not fit you perfectly.
Yeah.
Might be happy with that.
Yeah.
But you can go to a tailor, and pay a little bit of a premium, and then you get what you really want.
I think exactly that. And you know, we found, even with ACRONIS and some of the other vendors, they're brilliant at telling you that everything's great within their stack, right? But we know that there are some things that aren't great. They're not ready. They're almost using you as the way of featuring.
Yeah.
So what we do is we go, do you know what? Stay away from that. It's not ready. And the reason that we do that, what is the point in a salesperson selling something knowing that there's potential issues there, that then creates tickets into our support desk? That kills all the margin. And they like that. They respect that, right? People respect you telling them. Be upfront with them.
So many experiences on price, and people leading on price, which is the wrong way.
Yeah.
Lead on service. Lead on the
USP.
But we've seen it so many times, Lawrence and myself, where someone's coming and says, "Well, I can get this server for this price." It says, "No, configure that server now as per your needed, because by the time you add the right drives or the right RAID, etc., suddenly you'll see that actually we are the right price." So if someone's putting out sort of dummy models to trick you into thinking, wow, that's so much cheaper than Terra, but the end result, you pay more.
Come back to what I was saying earlier, wasn't it, about the way that some people out there are saying, it'll only cost you this, but hang on. Have you actually run the process? Have you factored in all these other things?
What is I always say that, do you ask your end customer what requirement? They just send us a competitor quote to me every day and say, could Terra do this? Yes, of course we can do it. But the thing is, what is the behind reason why they need that config or that backup solution? What their agenda? What is their requirement? Could you tell me? But most of the time, the reseller is just I received the quote only.
They don't, because they don't understand. Lawrence, they don't understand. We are
here to help. So that's why.
But like you've experienced with me so far, we've engaged with a lot of MSPs of Terra, and when we've gone through the commercial model, they actually think there's only one commercial model of ACRONIS, which is you charge us a cost per gig per month. No, there's two different models. There's a cost per gig per month that includes all your licensing, or there's a workflow model. So now you pay a cost per gig per month, but it's far less because you're also going to have to pay for each machine you're protecting. The point of that is, depending on how many machines you're protecting, will determine which of those two models is more cost effective. That is key. Because I will guarantee there will be a load of MSPs right now buying ACRONIS on a model that's 50% more expensive because they're on the wrong model. Because the disty doesn't really understand it. They don't know about it. And that's where I think we come in.
So that's why we're doing we got a process, which is not say automation, it's system-wise. The first one, engage one, and then we will do the demo, how to do the how it's look like, and then final, we're not leaving you, just give you the
hold their hand.
Onboard. I said, Mr. Customer, some of the customers saying, can you grant me the right? I will do it yourself. I said, no, don't do it yourself, because otherwise you will be ruin that experience. Sometimes because I don't want you yet. You may be techie guys or whatever. You may be find out. You still need time to find out which button is the right. But why not just wait for us onboarding call?
Lawrence, I'm so with you, because again, how many times do we see a distributor go, there's a video, there's an article, there's a data, off you go. What? Where's the onboarding? Where's the hand-holding?
So, to be honest, when you get directed to sites to go, well, there's this site.
People haven't got time.
These sites, these resources, it's a minefield because
Yeah.
there's too many spaces and you get lost. But if we can just engage the customer,
Show them.
their 2 or 3 key points, hand it to them on the plate, we're there.
Totally agree. It's all about hand holding.
Yeah. I won't take you a long time. It's like a 45-minute onboarding process. Usually you already over that. I can see a lot of, when we do the onboarding, I do many times now, and a lot of the partner, some of them are business owners, some of them techie guy, and they already have in their brain keep asking, how to do that, how, if they are thinking. So this is engagement. It's not saying, you got the video. So if that work, that ACRONIS, even though do not need distributor, they just go direct, and then we just doing all the video in YouTube and then share. That is nice to have. Is to remind them how to do it. It's not saying the first time engagement.
The reality is they won't do it. If you just send them a bunch of articles and videos, they're like, forget it. I haven't got time for this.
My take on this is we've got 2 ways. You can go the classical distributor, adding no value, or you can come to our venture, which I would call a boutique house. And that boutique house has got the customer's interest more at heart, and also is willing to spend the time to do it properly.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, if somebody feels for whatever reason we weren't doing it properly, right, then they know that they could move from T Squared to another distributor. So it's important that we are doing it properly, because we don't want to see that, obviously.
And we also make a joke, by the way, like, I'm the CEO of Terra. A lot of MSPs can call me up directly. A lot of them know me, but you can't reach Michael Dell. Sorry, Michael, I'm not trying to get you personally.
That is the truth.
You know,
that is
we're approachable. We're a hierarchy which is reachable. So we, like yourself, when you had that Sunday call to help someone with his 2FA problem, we're there for them. And this is the differentiator, and being a modern, like an old but modern company who respects the values and needs of an MSP.
Yeah.
Well, you can guarantee if something's going to go wrong, you know it's going to be a Friday night over the weekend, bank holiday, and that's when those discs aren't available. Always is. Always. But it's worth just sort of mentioning before we sort of wrap up. Our CTO, a guy called Andrew Parker, he is one of the very few people, and there's only a handful of them, that sit on what's called the ACRONIS Partner Advisory Council. Andrew carries a lot of weight when recommending to that council future developments, changes, things that aren't working, right? So he's very well respected in the industry, and ACRONIS a few years ago asked him to sit on that committee. Again, who else is doing that in any other disc? So we carry a lot of weight with the vendor, you know, in terms of escalating as well, getting things done. We have those direct paths into, you know, the CEO of ACRONIS, CTO, CRO, and so on at C-level. And that's key. Because like when that reseller called me up that Sunday afternoon, had we not had them, we'd have just been like any other disty, putting a ticket into support, probably wouldn't have got a response till the following day, and it'd have been too late. So that's important as well.
Massive differentiator. Massive
differentiator.
So, I mean, we're coming to the end. Maybe I'd like to ask Lawrence first to maybe put 2 or 3 key takeaways from this podcast.
I think I would say one thing is always ask us. We will always here to help, and you are not alone. Especially, I think some of the small MSP, they may be just one-man band or few person. Leverage us. We are your extended arm to help them to win, to succeed. This is what I'm thinking about. That is the very key message to our partner. Okay.
Yourself, Paul?
To be honest, it's the same message. You know, it's just doing what we do well, which is just caring, just being there for the reseller when they need you, but not waiting for them. You know, don't be reactive, be proactive. Right? Because that's the biggest mistake a lot of them make. They wait for you to call them, you know, when you want to buy something else. So, no, you need to be in there all the time. Like you said, traveling up and down the country, seeing the partners, doing webinars, showing them new features as they're being released, you know, because again, there's all this money on the table of other things that they could be selling that they don't know about. So it's important to keep talking to them.
And they're constantly reviewing their stack.
Yeah,
They've
of
got to
course.
evolve all the time.
Yeah, and there'll be another new kid on the block that'll be offering.
If you don't update them at the right time, they might have just changed their pricing and their stack structure, and then they suddenly realise, oh, if I knew that extra widget was available, or that add-on was available, I could have had that in my stack and my price model this time, but it's going to have to wait for my next review.
Well, here's probably one of my top tips I'll lead you with. One of the things that I said years ago to ACRONIS, and I never really understood it, and they still bill in this way as we do. On disaster recovery, they'll charge you for compute points for running our IPs, VPN storage. And I always used to think, why do these vendors overcomplicate it? Why don't they just wrap it all into one higher cost per gig? Right? Because that's easier for a salesperson. So what I'm doing is giving a tip potentially to an MSP. If I was an MSP, regardless of the way we charge them, I would take those modules, wrap them all into a higher cost per gig.
Taking a risk on the data.
Well, that's what it is, because people have said to me, yeah, but how would you do that, Paul? There's a risk. I said, yeah, but hang on. If you've got thousands of people paying for it from day one at a higher cost per gig, but not using it, what do we care? Because the reality is you might end up with 10 in a month, 20 in a month, but you've got thousands paying for it. It doesn't matter. And all of a sudden they've gone, well, that's brilliant, because now all the salesperson needs to know is how many terabytes needs to be backed up. It's one cost for backup, or it's this higher cost for backup and DR.
From that point of view, I would say the key thing is for me right now is because we are showing the love in February, as we call it. We are showing the love, and we have a special promotion running from Microsoft CSP combined with ACRONIS. So based upon that, I'd really like to try to persuade the MSPs who are listening. Have a look, reach out, talk. 45 minutes of your time can be very valuable to your business from a time perspective,
100%,
but on a long-term perspective, you get a much more return on investment. If you listen to us, let us sell you our solutions, and you will get definite gain. Thanks for your time, guys.
No,
been really fantastic.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you.
My first experience doing the podcast together, all the nerves were gone.
It's good.
Yeah? Did you enjoy it, guys? I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much. See you next time, guys.